Welcome everyone to the Anarchy Analysis series, where we are jumping into the spring split for 2023 after a very dominant winter split from G2. Today, we've got 15 games on the docket, of which we're going to be going over each and every single one of them, with teams making big changes over the off-season in order to improve. Who will make it yet again to a final? Only time will tell as we jump into our opening predictions. Let's get into it. It's our matchup of the week. It is XL taking on Fnatic in what is considered the bottom two teams from winter, battling it out in the first game. This is going to be quite an interesting one, to say the least, as both teams are essentially looking to do better than they did last run. Because, let's be honest, these two teams don't really have anything to lose. All their expectations were dropped after the winter split. But roster changes have come through for either side. Fnatic replacing Wonder as well as Rux for Oscarin, and I forgot his name. It is Advian. That's who it is. This is going to be quite an interesting split, to say the least, for Fnatic, because you're bringing in a new top laner to the league, a rookie at that, and removing a player with a lot of experience. Granted, Wonder as a player, I think, ever since 2019-2020, where he left G2, he kind of has been on the downward trend as a player, which is unfortunate. Obviously, after G2 failed to win the split for 2 years in 2021, there was obviously doubts around his skill and his commitment to the game. Now, I think if he is going into Fnatic's ERL team, he's going to have to prove himself. He's the first, I'd say, big name from the G2 squad that won MSI to kind of falter. Yes, Mickey X was dropped for a split from the entirety of the LEC, but he was immediately, after about halfway through the summer split, picked up by XL and then dominated. And look where he is now, he's back at G2. Wonder, I think, needs the time in the ERL leagues to kind of, not hone his skill, but kind of prove himself. Prove himself to still be an LEC caliber player. Now, as for XL, we'll leave the Advian situation. I think he was unfortunate last time he was in the LEC. He's actually going up against his former team in XL, who we're getting into right now. Their main change is Limit is in for Targamas. I'm kind of a big fan of this, because the bot lane for XL was not working at all. They struggled during that split. Targamas and Patrick never really found a meld that worked for them, and realistically speaking, Patrick is an all-pro bot laner. We've seen that from him time and time again in recent splits, to be honest. Here, you look at the rest of his team, Targamas was kind of the odd one out. He was on that G2 roster that won the spring split last year, but he was the standout player there. The next split, he kind of wasn't that big name. It was more so about Caps and Yankos synergy, rather than a bot lane for G2 that was dominant. And Targamas as a whole, he isn't that sort of player that I think... So he's more of a player that is flexible in the sense of when he plays for G2. Here on XL, it felt like he was more forced into certain picks that didn't suit him. Here, I think this is where the fact that XL have dropped him is going to be beneficial for it. I think he needs a bit more time to kind of hone his skills. He probably, honestly, would have been a better fit on someone like Astralis, but they're finding success with their bot lane regardless. But he's not playing. Let's talk about XL, because I think they've made a good choice. It's going to be a good matchup though. Fnatic XL, I think Spring Split XL will win this matchup, and the reason being is their summer was shocking, and a lot of the caliber of them players are like award accredited players in the LEC. I think they will step it up for spring and then possibly summer. But Fnatic, it's a lot of untestedness. It's not the full meld. They've replaced 2 players. XL replaced the 1. There's a lot more cohesion, I feel, on the XL side, and that's why I've kind of gone for them winning our matchup of the week, which we will be VOD reviewing, possibly not this week, definitely the week after if not. But yeah, let's get into our second matchup. So if you have not noticed, the opening day is basically matchups between teams who finished near enough next to each other in the regular season, as our second game is BDS taking on SK. I'm going to be honest, very honest here. I'm going with BDS because, as a whole, these 2 teams were the standout teams from winter. Granted, G2 won the entire split, but these 2, as well as Astralis, overperformed from what we expected of them. And right now, looking at these 2 rosters, I think BDS is a team that will perform better in a best of 1. I think SK in the situation going up against BDS, while I'm not too sure how the meta has shifted, obviously we'll be on a new patch, SK, personally, I think will struggle here against BDS. It's hard to explain why, but essentially, top side of the map, I think is quite even now. I've been reviewing SK and BDS's matchups from winter, and as a whole, Irrelevant as a player has kind of been strong, but he faltered a little bit during playoffs, or the group stage, whatever you want to call it. The best of 3 stage, we'll go with that. And as a whole, he didn't underperform, but more so was kind of targeted by teams because they got their lanes ahead. Mad obviously played heavily towards Chasey during their playoffs, and Irrelevant kind of got exposed there. I think Adam, being the player he is, liking these more carry-orientated picks, will possibly try to punish Irrelevant. And that's why I've gone with BDS winning. In what could be considered my secondary matchup of the week, it's gonna be the Mad Alliance taking on Vitality in our third game. I'm really looking forward to this one. It was close, and I do mean close to being my matchup of the week. Sadly, it was pipped to the post, and the reason being, this is so highly anticipated for me, it's because these 2 faced off during playoffs, or groups, or whatever you want to call it, and it was kind of a bloodbath that Mad won out. This time, I think we're going to see a lot of interest in this one, because a lot of the players I think are fairly even in terms of their roles, and Vitality kind of choked their playoffs. That's the best way to word it for me. But here, they're going against Mad, a team that just lost in finals to G2, and haven't really recovered, or I don't think will have recovered from it. I think Mad will win, don't get me wrong, but like, it's going to be close. I think Vitality, using the couple of weeks extra practice coming into this one, will be more sort of prepared. I think Bo and Photon kind of are getting accustomed to the LEC. And with Upset, a player I've yet to mention in this video, coming into this Vitality roster, is a bit of a difference. It makes the Vitality squad shift a little. Neon, I think, is a very good ADC, that's for sure. He's getting all the blame put on him for Vitality choking their matches in playoffs, but you look at Vitality's ADC sort of pool that they've had. They've had Comp, they've had Crown Shot, they've had a lot of players who are finding success on other organizations. I think Upset's one of these players that everyone's going to say he's going to make this team better and everything, but will be scapegoated if Vitality do poor. I think Vitality here might have a struggle here in spring. It's hard to say that they're going to ace it with Upset coming in, because Upset, without a doubt, is a top ADC, that's for sure. Oh, bot laner, whatever you want to call him now. He is very good at his role. But you're looking at his lane partner. He's going with Kaiser, a guy who's won the league and has realistically, I don't think it's his fault. He's not the strongest performers in this sort of meta. I think he would much rather be playing Leona, Nautilus, Braum, Rakan, and not these enchanters that we've been seeing a lot more, the Namis, the Lulus. And granted, I know these big picks, the likes of Lucian and Caitlyn, have been nerfed out of the meta, but they're still favourable picks for teams in likes of the LCK and the LPL. It's still meta, and unfortunately I don't think this bot lane for Vitality will be as strong as what Neon and Kaiser was. But only time will tell. I dare say they'll shut me up here and win this matchup just to prove me wrong, but Mad as a whole, I think, are the better team. They're just stronger, and they've shown during the regular split last year and the playoffs, they do have multiple styles, and playing towards Chasey is one of them. A top side of the map orientated draft could honestly shift the pressure off of Upset, and or we see Mad just allowing Kazi and Hilly to get ahead and kill. That's another possibility. This matchup is very explosive in my opinion, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if Upset is the deal breaker that Vitality need. Let's get it. It is gonna be Koi taking on Astralis, and the biggest story coming into this one is Dayor is out, Leader is in. Dayor graciously stepped down from his LEC position after, I wouldn't say a bad split, he played very well, but in comes a player who played on that Vitality squad that then ended up being replaced by Perks. I can't really say much about Leader. He was touted as the next big mid laner, to be the new caps of the league, to then get absolutely shafted after one split. He isn't the worst player, I don't think, in the LEC. He is fairly good, but you do have to realize the LEC is a completely different environment to solo queue. And he's coming in kind of untested. He had a rough split the first time he was here, as I've said. But what did that prove? Not much. We didn't really get to see that much skill from him. And from what I remember, because this is quite a while ago, I didn't think too fondly of him back then. Here and now, maybe he's improved. Maybe he's matured and become an absolute god and takes this Astralis squad all the way to the finals that they eventually lose Koi in. Speaking of Koi, they are their opponents in week 1, and they've made no changes from their third placing squad. It's going to be interesting because I think they've gelled a little bit more during this kind of break. It's going to be intriguing because Koi, so with Shigenda in the roster, feel different. They certainly look it and kind of haven't found success, I don't think, that they'd be wanting from this team. Shigenda as a player is more of a carry top than tank top, and with the meta being the likes of the Jaxes, the Fioras, these heavy sort of I'm gonna impact game by either split pushing or killing you all in a team fight picks is more meta, and that's something I don't associate with Koi. Let's be honest, they're not the meta defining team. They're more so the we're gonna perfect a style, stick to it, and kill you every single time sort of team. They develop and hone their craft exceptionally well. The fact that their coaching staff has stayed the same and been so consistent in their performance and output, it makes Koi a good squad. That's what drives these players to success, is how they played. I think this opening game, we might actually see a new style coming out from Koi. I think we might see Maorang, unfortunately for me, because I love how he plays, be a bit more farm heavy. Last split, he was kind of a weak link, unfortunately, because he fell so far behind. It made it harder for him to go for engages because he was so squishy, or he was getting caught out because teams, I'm not saying disrespected how he plays, but they figured him out and cared less for what he was doing because they were able to cross map and get something else because they kind of expect him, oh, he's probably hiding there. That's how teams have kind of adapted to Koi. But I think coming into the split, they'll bring something fresh, they'll bring something new, and possibly just demolish you. That's the sort of thing we want to see from this Koi squad, because they need something new and fresh if they are to compete at the top. Oh yeah, by the way, I predicted Koi winning this one. Our last game of the day is Team Heretics taking on G2. Gonna be honest, I expect an absolute bloodbath in the bot lane, with Hans Sama standing on top of everyone's body. That's how I think this matchup's gonna go. If I'm gonna be brutally honest, I think G2 are gonna absolutely wipe the goddamn floor with Heretics. It just seems like Heretics are the type of squad to not adapt to the meta. I think that they'll bring the same style they brought in spring after, not spring, winter. I've got to get used to winter being a thing. But basically, I think they're kind of the polar opposite to Koi, in the sense that they're not kind of a prep team. They're more so do what's right in the moment. And it's usually Ebby, stick to the tank, stick to these picks. And Yankos, try and farm, be relevant when needed. But he can also play these engage sort of picks, like the Elise and the Sedge. And then you've also got the mid lane. Ruby, I think, might have a better spring than his winter. His winter was very good. I'm not going to deny him that. But here, I think, I don't know. I think Heretics will get absolutely dominated due to the mid lane. I think Caps is just on another level this year. He's taken the Faker role, shall we say. Faker used to be the carry that kind of got T1 the 3 trophies they did. But as the years have gone on, he's stepped back to allow the likes of Keria and Gumayushi to be the carries, and he played more facilitatory roles. And that's what Caps has kind of done this split. Last year, he was kind of staying relevant as a carry mid. Winter, he stepped back a bit. He allowed Yike as well as his ADC to kind of step up and be the front stars for G2, and he is still, without a doubt, a strong mid laner. But the way G2 have kind of tailored towards Yike and Hansama is a nice sort of change of the old into the new, and that's why I think the skill that they've developed over winter is going to come out here in spring and absolutely dominate their opposite. Day 2 is kicked off with the Mad Lions taking on BDS. That's actually a juicy matchup. A lot of these games this opening weekend are juicy, and I still think Mad will win because I think it's a battle at the top yet again. Chasey versus Adam. Magnifique, if I am to say so myself. It's going to be cool to see this one because I just think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. These two teams kind of just give off the urge to fight whenever. Mad always have been known as a team fighting squad since their inception into the league, and BDS just feels scrappy. That's just how these two teams feel around each other, and I think we'll see a Mad win, and it won't be clean. That's the best way to word it, after probably saying how I feel about them in the opening games. Excel take on Vitality in our second game of the day. This one's interesting because both teams have a lot of expectations put on them. Excel have only made one change after a dismal, and I do mean dismal, winter. And Vitality switch out Neon for Upset. I'm going to be honest with you, you can tell I'm not a big fan of the fact that they've switched out Neon. Reason being is Fnatic got rid of Upset to bring in Reckless, which we've kind of understood hasn't been the best thing for Fnatic if we look at Winter for reference. Here, I'm not a big fan of bringing in Upset to Vitality because regular split Vitality won the whole thing. They won the regular split and then faltered during groups. That's where their issues arose. And that was purely because the team could not adapt to best of 3s or best of 5s, because you look at the rest of the roster and how the meta was so heavily defined by blue side. They got unlucky in some aspects because they played on blue side less. That's the simplest way to word it. And coming into this one, I'm still not hot on Upset. He's a phenomenal ADC, I've said this already. But Neon was fine. I'm already predicting the Vitality win. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just saying it right now. XL probably could shut up doubters if they win this one. It's as simple as that. Vitality, I still think, is downward trend. And that's just my opinion. But they're still good enough to win games. Simple as that. But you've also got Perks and Upset on the same team. Jeez. That's a yikes. It's time for the old El Clasico as Fnatic take on SK. I'm intrigued by this one as well, as you've got a team that overperformed last split taking on a team that underperformed. That's the basis of this game. It's underperforming versus overperforming. Who do I think will win? I've gone with SK. Do I think Fnatic will win? Probably, now that I've predicted SK and locked it in. But you know, Fnatic, you've got a lot to prove. This weekend, if you do well by winning any game, maybe I'll pick you winning some in the second week. That's all I've got to say. Regardless, I've gone ESC. G2 versus Astralis, and I'm going to be blunt about this one. I've gone with G2. I just think Astralis will get smashed mid. It's Caps versus Leader. I don't mean to be mean, but it's Caps versus Leader. The greatest mid in LEC history will wipe the floor with him. Enough said, let's move into the last game of the day. Let's go, it's our final game of the day. It's Koi taking on Heretics, and prior to starting these recordings, I had a look at all the teams in the LEC to kind of see where or which country I would associate with the teams, and a lot of them I associate with Spain. And these two are the main Spanish orgs for the LEC, as they do have the Spanish rights for the LEC. How do I say it? They stream the Spanish coverage of the games. Regardless, this matchup, you'd expect me to go Koi, which I have, but as a whole, it feels like the game to me that screams Heretics win. It's unfortunate that my brain thinks that, but if you want to understand me and how I predict these, it's usually Koi and G2 I predict winning every game. Reason being, they're strong. They've just always been strong. And I'm now using the basis of Winter to kind of predict these games. That's how I have to do it. Yes, there's been 2 weeks of rest. And yes, that does make a big difference because it's technically an off-season and teams make trades. And we already see players coming in. But here, I think Koi will win. As much as my brain says Heretics, 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 my heart's with Koi. Did somebody say rapid fire? That's right, we're going through the last 5 games of the opening weekend in a quick successive format. Starting off with SK taking on Astralis, I have gone with SK. BDS versus Team Heretics, I have gone with BDS. Koi versus Mad in a rematch for the 3rd place from last split, I have gone with Koi. G2 versus XL, I have gone with G2, which is a no-brainer. And our final matchup for the week, it's Vitality taking on Fnatic, that I have gone with Vitality. And with that, all 15 games have been muttered out of my mouth in a rapid format of randomness? Yeah, let's go with that wording. Thank you very much for joining me. If you have enjoyed this prediction series, leave a like down below. I will be going live on Sunday with either the VOD review of the day before's action, or we'll be doing something chill. Why not? We'll make a video out of it. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new and everyone do, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.